Thanks for joining us. I'm Judy Simpson. We begin our program today with a visit to a farm in Shelburne. The Bread and Butter Farm has found ways to grow their business throughout the year, in the cold of winter and in the warmth of summer. In the summer, the farm owners make their bread and butter by bringing the plate to the farm. In the winter, they've carved out another niche by starting their growing season at a time when many other farms are bringing in the harvest. Keith Silva visited the farm to learn more about its unique approach to business.
When the snow starts to fly at Bread and Butter Farm in Shelburne, it's a sign it's time to pick.
The niche really for us is the winter growing and focusing on cold hardy winter greens.
Corey Pierce and her business partner, Adam Wilson, run this 140-acre farm. In addition to what they grow in their 2 greenhouses, they have beef cattle and operate a bakery. On Fridays during the summer, they host burger nights. From buns to burgers to salads, all of the food is made and served on site. During the winter months, Pierce harvests kale and spinach. As for the rest of the management in the greenhouse, she makes sure to keep everything fairly passive.
The only thing that we're capturing here is the sun's heat, and we call it passive solar greenhouses. Because of the volume of space that we have in here and the plastic relatively tight space that we've got, it stays warm in here. The soil actually stays about 40 degrees, and we get, on a sunny day in January when it's 12 degrees outside, we'll get up to 70 degrees in here, 80 degrees when things really get heated up. And we actually, on those days, continuous sunny days in a row, we'll actually get growth, especially in the spinach and a little bit in the kale. But yeah, the way I look at it is the input that's gone into this is the steel and the plastic and the frame, and that's a long-term investment. But then after that, it's just a matter of managing the space. And actually, people always think it's all about like getting the plants, keeping them as warm as possible. It's actually more about making sure that we actually are minimizing the temperature swing that they are experiencing. So I'm actually doing a lot of venting and a lot of clearing out of the warm air.
Pierce tries to keep the temperature in the greenhouse at about 60 degrees. When it gets really cold, like at night, she covers the plants with a row cover. Think of it like using a blanket to tuck the plants in. The row cover creates a microclimate, which keeps the temperature 20 degrees warmer than the air outside.
People, I think, like once they come in and see like no additional heat except the sun, and they can see crops actually alive, they can taste them, and they have a totally different taste from kale in the summer. It might not look as pretty this time of year, but it's tastier than ever and tender and sweet and all that. And same thing with the spinach. People get really excited. I think people are really getting used to it. Like people are, even on their own in little cold frames outside, are starting to try to overwinter more, and that's great. I think it's totally doable, and these plants are totally amazing how they survive.
Pierce sells what she grows through her farm and through Healthy Living, a natural foods market in Burlington. As consumer demand for local food continues to increase, even in the winter, farmers are sure to fill the need. University of Vermont vegetable and berry specialist Fern Grubinger believes winter hardy crops could help farmers stand out in a crowded marketplace.
But it's not something that every grower is interested in because people are pretty busy throughout the growing season, which is long as it is. So it takes a certain kind of grower that wants to be dealing with the tunnels and the covers and keeping these crops alive and harvesting them in the middle of winter. But a lot more growers could be doing this. It's not an exclusive kind of technology. It's affordable and attainable by a lot of people. It just has to fit their production season and their personal, schedule of growing. We're starting to see more growers producing crops, leafy greens, cold hardy greens in the winter, in part because there's an unmet market demand, whereas in many locations summer vegetables are pretty saturated because there are a lot of growers and a lot of farmers markets and things like that. So I expect to see more winter production in the coming years.
Increased competition is one problem Pierce would be happy to have.
I just want to see people do this. Like I don't look at it as like competition, I think a lot of factors are at play in our community and our state of and region of just fostering this food system, and I think there's a lot more space than some people might say. Honestly, I got really inspired when I saw the simplicity of this system. Like, I don't have to be managing propane tanks or whatever other heating source or fans or electricity coming into here, or like I can just put these greenhouses up and boom, get going. And what I'm losing in yield by not putting in all that input to pump out the product, I am gaining in simplicity, in not spending that money or those fossil fuel, inputs. I think you got to continually be creative with it. You can't sit back and just be like, oh, we figured out what we're doing, that's what we're going to do. It's like, I feel like you have to constantly adapt.
Spinach and kale, winter greens that taste good and keep farmers in the green all winter long. In Shelburne, I'm Keith Silva with Across the Fence.
To find out more about Burger Night or to visit the bakery and farm stand at the Bread and Butter Farm, check the website, breadandbutterfarm.com, or give them a call at 802-985-9200. For the past 6 years, a University of Vermont Extension scientist has been collaborating with a Vermont landowner to research whether perennial grasses can be used for biomass energy. The research helped identify the right grass to use, but the problem has been finding the right boiler to burn the grass, until now. Rebecca Gollin reports on the latest findings of the grass-to-energy research.
There's a new trend in energy that's growing in Vermont.
The grass is hayed like typical hay. It's in a round bale form. It'll be chopped into smaller particles and then densified into what we call these pucks, these briquette pucks. And then that will be in a form that can be burned in a boiler.
University of Vermont Extension researcher Sid Bosworth has been studying the feasibility of using grass as fuel for years. Here at Meech Cove Farm in Shelburne, Bosworth works with the landowner and the farm manager to create a reliable source of fuel for the farm. He has conducted experiments on how different varieties grow and how they burn when processed.
I think we're at a point where we know we can grow these grasses. We have a good handle on their yield and economics to grow them. Is it going to be profitable or not for a landowner to grow these? We have a handle on how to process them for burning. And now it looks like we have, and I think this has been the big bottleneck, we now have possible systems for burning them at least a smaller intermediate industrial size, something that could handle, a building, a church or an office building or a shop area.
What Bosworth and his research partners have now that they didn't have before is a boiler capable of burning the grass in a consistent way.
One of the challenges with burning a biomass like a grass species is that depending on the mineral content, depending on the density of the pellet or the puck that you're using, and depending on the boiler you're using, you can get mixed results when they burn.
There are a number of factors that can influence how the grass burns, from nutrient content and density of the biomass to the boiler itself. Even the temperature at which it's burned can make a big difference.
So another advantage of switchgrass is that it doesn't require as many nutrients.
These test plots are looking at how timing the harvest of switchgrass can affect its quality as fuel.
We're looking at a field of switchgrass, and this switchgrass was actually mowed back in the fall. The idea is that we mow it at that time. It stays in the windrow through the winter, and then it's harvested for hay in April or May.
The grass is left in the field through the winter to deplete its mineral content.
It's going to get rained on, and in the winter, snowfall. Our idea is actually counter to making good quality hay for livestock. We're trying to leach the nutrients out of this hay. That's better for burning quality.
Here in New England, we burn wood. That's what we understand. And so part of what our company does is try to introduce and say, let's burn biomass. Biomass is wood, it can be grass, we can densify anything. Why not have your fuel source in the backyard, so to speak?
Adam Dansher is a partner at Renewable Energy Resources, another collaborator in this project. Their role is turning the grass into pellets, or larger, disc-shaped pucks that are ready to be burned.
These here are the form factors that we make. This is a 2-inch briquette or a puck. These can be made softer, weigh less. They can be made to be hard. So we can manipulate the material, the end product, to customize to the customer. The process is what we call field to flue.
One aspect of the project is to create results that can be replicated easily in other places. So Dansher and his partners try not to use specialized machines.
We use farm equipment because farm equipment is easy to get. Farming is done everywhere. The only specialty piece of machinery is the one behind me, which is the densifier. This is a machine that we had built about 5 years ago. And what it does is take chopped grass at 3 pounds a cubic foot chopped to 35 pounds a cubic foot densified. And so we can take a large bale and turn it into something very small, and then that gets transported into the boiler.
The group researched boilers extensively before making their choice. They spent months testing and calibrating the machine.
We had the first part of the winter to run it on wood pellets, and since mid-February we've been running the combustion testing with the various grasses that you've seen growing in the field. We are taking emission samples. We'll also be doing some lab sampling to try to make comparisons between the efficiencies and the combustion data of these grasses in these forms with wood, premium wood pellets as our control.
Tests conducted with the boiler have confirmed that some grasses don't burn as efficiently as wood, and some produce more emissions than a standard wood pellet. But the potential is there. While Bosworth works to deplete grasses of their nutrient load before they reach the boiler, Davis has been adjusting the boiler to work well with the various characteristics of the grasses.
The other thing that's kind of unique about this particular boiler is because it has a processor not unlike a smartphone, it can do a lot of the adjusting for me, and we're learning how to help it do that more efficiently to get better results on the emissions. And it's just going to take some time. But the initial data so far and the initial performance is that we can heat this building with these grasses, and they do burn very similar to wood, and they burn with enough intensity that this is for the first time we know that we can do it.
The next step of the project is to do a longer-term, continuous run of the grasses over the winter to see how they hold up as a primary heat source and how well the boiler handles them.
We're hopeful that as we gain this better understanding of this, that we will be able to utilize this resource in Vermont.
After months in the field, the grass may not be greener at Meech Cove Farm, but researchers are hoping that it keeps things nice and warm through a Vermont winter. It's energy from the land, and if it proves to be up to the job, it could soon be a growing trend in energy that's grown right here in Vermont. In Shelburne, I'm Rebecca Gollin with Across the Fence.
To learn more about the UVM Grass to Energy project, you can check the website in the Plant and Soil Science Department. Go to pss.uvm.edu/grassenergy. And that's our program for today. Thanks for joining us. I'm Judy Simpson. I'll see you again next time on Across the Fence.